In today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to change your strings. By now you might have noticed the strings might be getting a little dull or they might have some crud on them. That's from just the natural oils that your fingers will kind of leave residue and crud on the strings over time. You can prolong the life of your strings by washing your hands before you play. But an important part of playing guitar is knowing how to change the strings, because you don't want to have to take it to a music shop every time you need your strings changed. So that's what we're going to learn about today.
2, 3, action.
So the first thing we're going to do is loosen up all our strings. So you're going to detune all your strings till they're really nice and loose. So you do that with every string. You want to do this before you cut them so that you don't poke your eye out. You can also use a string, there's a tool called a string winder you could use to do this, but it's not really necessary. Get those all real nice and loose, and then we're going to use our wire cutters to cut our strings. So now you got your strings all loose, we're going to go ahead and take our wire cutters and we're going to cut these strings. Anywhere really, but I kind of just do it above the sound hole. Okay, so you got those all cut off. So now we're going to remove these pegs right here. These pins. You might need to use your tool. Don't apply too much pressure, but just kind of wiggle those out of the holes. And you don't really have to remember which pins are holding which strings. They're all kind of the same. So just pull those out of there very gently. Pull the ends of the strings out. Sometimes you don't even need to use your tool to pull these pegs out. Just depends on how tight they're in there. So we've removed all those strings. So now that we have our strings removed from the bridge, we're going to place our new strings in there. So strings usually come in, they'll kind of put different strings together in the package. So this one has like the E string and the G string together. So make sure you got the right string. And we're going to start with the E string here. So what you want to do is you want to put this E string, your low E string in that first hole, grab one of your pins and kind of push it down in there with the slot facing forward toward the headstock. Okay, now you want to reach in. You're not really going to be able to see this, but you're going to reach in underneath, down the sound hole, and you want this end of the string, you want it to be up in front of this pin and up under the top of the guitar. So you kind of have to feel around down there with your fingers and make sure that you push your pin in, and then you make sure that that end of that string is pushed up against the bottom of the bridge or the top of the guitar here. So and then you just kind of, if you pull on it, and make sure that it's in there nice and snug. Okay, so before you go putting that in through your tuning pegs, you want to go ahead and put every string into the bridge. That way you have plenty of room to reach down in the hole. So the next string was our G string. So we'll put that in where our G string goes, right there. Same thing, grab a pin, slot facing toward the head, and just make sure that that tip, that end of the string is up against the bottom of the bridge. Okay, kind of pull on it, make sure it's in there snug. Okay, so now we're going to take our A string, put that in the second hole, slot facing toward the head of the guitar. push the end of that string up against the bottom. Kind of pull on that, make sure it's nice and snug. It's good. Now we'll do our B string. Really doesn't matter what order you put the strings in. I'm just doing this because that's the way they were packaged. Okay, that one's nice and snug. 2 more to go. You're going to notice a big difference when you get new strings on. Usually for me, I feel like it's a little smoother to play and a little brighter too, sound. Some people prefer to have dull strings. It just kind of depends on what you want. But inevitably, you're going to break one eventually, and you're going to need to know how to change them. So it's our D string there, and one more. Our E string. Now if you're playing electric guitar, you don't have to mess with these pins. It just, there's a hole on your bridge that the string will slide through. We'll probably do a lesson on changing guitar strings eventually, as electric strings as well, but it's basically the exact same minus these pins. Okay, so you got your strings in. We're just going to fold those back. Now while you got the strings kind of off and loose, you can do a little housekeeping. There's usually dust forms in here. You can kind of take a really soft cloth like this, kind of dust under there, kind of clean that up. You can, you know, dust your fretboard as well. Okay, so that's that. We got our strings in the bridge, and now we're ready to put them in our tuning pegs. So now we're going to remove the remaining part of our string from our tuning pegs. So you just want to kind of unwind that around. Be careful, these things are sharp. They can kind of poke your fingers, so straighten that out and just pull the rest of that on through. So we're going to do that with each string. Just take those off. Again, these can be kind of sharp, so just have to be careful. We're going to finish taking these strings out. Okay, now we got a string. Now, while you're down here, you can do a little house cleaning too, and just kind of dust around the tuning pegs while it's all open. Okay, so now we're ready to put our strings through the tuning pegs. So now we're going to put the string through the post on the tuning peg. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the hole is running parallel to the nut, so going this way. That makes it a little easier. So we're going to take the string from the inside this way through. Kind of pull that through. You want to leave a little bit of slack in the string. Not a ton, but a little bit. Okay? So then what you want to do is wrap it back around this way and pull it tight. Pull it tight so you kind of crease the string right here. And then we're going to go underneath. So we're going under. Okay? We'll pull that tight, and then we're going to kind of pull up. So that now when we tighten this down, the string right here is going to pin this part down against the post. So if you can see that, now I'm going to tighten it. You'll see how that'll get pinned down. Now you want to make sure the string coming in this way goes underneath the string that's already wrapped in the post. So the other thing you want to make sure of is that you're sliding the string into the right slot of the nut. So let me continue to tighten that down, kind of pick the string and just kind of get it to where it kind of feels like it where it should be. We'll tune it later, okay? So that's how you do it. Now we're going to do that on the rest of the strings. Don't cut this extra off yet until you're all done. So now we're going to do our A string, bring that up. Same thing. Make sure the hole's going that way. Slide that through from the inside going out. Leave a little bit of slack. Come around. Pull it tight there. Go underneath. Pull it tight and then up. Then you can tighten it down. Make sure you're in the second slot now for the A string. Okay. Okay, that's our A string. Now that you got your low E, A, and D string in, I like to flip the guitar around on my lap so that I can get the bottom part done. So we're going to do the G string now. You got to make sure that that hole is parallel. You're going to slide it in again from the inside to the out. Pull that through a little bit. Leave yourself some slack. Wrapping it back around, underneath, and then up. Pulling that tight. Now we're going to tighten it down. Make sure you're in the right slot with the nut. And now we tighten it up. I kind of hold this string and keep some pressure on it so everything stays tight. Okay. We'll do our B string same way. Back, underneath, and then up. Put it in the right slot. Might have to tighten it up a little bit before you put it in the slot. Okay. Tightening. Okay, one more string. So back, underneath, pull it tight, then pull it up. And after you get all these strings in, then I'm going to show you how to tune it up good, and then we'll cut the remaining extra string. I never cut them until I'm done in case something slips or I got to redo something. Okay, so that's it for stringing them up here in the tuning pegs. So now that we got all our strings on, we're going to tune it up. So taking your tuner, we're going to tune the low E string first. Tune that up to our E. Okay, you don't have to be perfect here, you just got to get close because we're going to stretch the string out too. So when you put new strings on, they tend to want to stretch out and it'll kind of go out of tune frequently at first. So we're going to stretch the string a little bit. I like to just kind of pull up on it with my thumb here, straight up, kind of stretch it out, not real hard. Then maybe put your first finger on the 5th fret, stretch it, 9th fret, stretch it, 12th fret, and stretch it. Then retune it. So you're stretching it out there, took it down a whole half step. You want to do that maybe a couple times. Okay, now we're going to go to our A string. Stretch that out. Okay, now we're going to go to our D string. Stretch that one out. A couple different places. Okay, now the G string. Make sure you're watching your tuner. Make sure you got the right note showing up on your tuner. F sharp and G. Okay, stretch that out. Now our B. Stretch that one out. And our E. Okay. Stretch that one out. Tune it again. Okay, when you get down there, play a chord, you're going to see we're still a little bit out of tune. So you're always going to have to go back and tune it a couple times. So we'll go back to our low E. This is kind of called fine tuning it. There, now it's in tune. Now you're going to have to retune it a couple times. Okay, so after you've done that, then we can snip these tails off here. You can snip these off. You just want to kind of snip them as close as you can. Just kind of cut those off with your wire cutters. And that is it. We are done. We have changed our strings. So that's it for this lesson on changing your guitar strings.